Fine. So we can move on to the men. So we will start with the 59 kilo class. Another one of these that are not particularly exciting just because while we have competitors, it's a one-man show. Oscar Carpio, currently the best 59 in the world, and hopefully soon to pass Mr. Fedoshenko and be the number 159 ever. So he's competing. He's going to total whatever he wants total. I don't think he's going to. I mean, he's put up like 650 or something around that in training. He's not going to do that here because there's absolutely zero reason for him to do it. I don't know what his game plan is. Maybe he's going to push somewhat just so he gets some data. But either way, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to come within 100 kilos. And I have like nothing to add here. So if you have anything to add here, then go ahead.
Nope. I think
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I have nothing else to say. Just Waskar has it clear cut. And yeah, I hope he beats Fedoshenko's record, or not record, but at least get close to it, secure the Sheffy spot, and then obliterate it at Sheffield, because I don't want to spread any bad news or put anyone in bad light, but Fedoshenko isn't the best role model for the 59, so I need Waskar to go to the Worlds, get that Sheffield spot, and then just obliterate that record. That's pretty much it.
JJ, anything to add?
I have nothing, but I've been predicted to win by 120 kilos. So.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just add something. I think he is going to win by over 100 kilos. He honestly could come in and just total 570. That's the 85% mark of the world record. So for those who don't know, that hasn't really come into play yet, just because the totals have been so competitive. But to qualify for Worlds, the winner will need to hit at least 85% of the world record total. So in this class, it is 569.5. So he could come in. And honestly, I probably would do this, but I don't think he's going to. He could come in and just total 570, go home, get ready for Worlds. But just based off his training and also his Instagram Q&As, I think he is looking to maybe not match what he did in the gym, which is I think he did 648.5, which is just like, that's already almost 25 kilos over his best competition total. But I think he will honestly try to kind of, I don't know, prove the doubters wrong and hit the total that would have qualified him for Sheffield last year. And that total will be the same this year because the world record hasn't been broken. So for those who don't know, last year at Worlds, his goal was to qualify for Sheffield and also bring eyes to the class, which he clearly has done. There's some newcomers coming up in the class, but he was aiming for that 636.5 kilo total. And he had an 8-for-9 day. He got it all the way to his last deadlift. He tried to pull that last deadlift to get over the mark that he needed for Sheffield, and he dropped it at the top. I don't know if it was like a strength issue, like he just couldn't lock it out, but it just seemed like it was grip. So I think he'll be looking to take revenge on that and hit that total and not push past that, which honestly, like, he literally could total like 70 kilos less or nearly that and total 570 and get the ticket to Worlds. But I think he is going to be looking for revenge on that Sheffield qualifying total and kind of prove to the world that he can do it and that he's going to qualify for Sheffield at this year's Worlds.
Okay. Yeah. So let's move on to the best weight class battle, not only in this meet, but potentially ever. So moving on to the 66s, we have an insane one here, and it would have even been better, but unfortunately, Brian Lee had to drop out due to injuries. He would have been a serious competitor here. He came second at Worlds last year, didn't necessarily have his best meet there, but his training had been going very well here, and he would have been in the thick of the running. So, but we're still left with 6 legitimate contenders here. We've got Rodrigo Manzo, formerly won Nationals the year that Worlds was canceled. He lost his shot of going to Worlds. We got Daniel Clements, who's got the biggest total ever at the 67.5. He didn't do it at 66, but he's now moved over. We've got Austin Nikolai, a junior phenom, had a phenomenal meet at USA PL Nationals this past year and now is moving over. We got Jonathan Garcia, who formerly has won the silver medal at Worlds and is coming back. And then we got Morgan Aquino Garcia, who has battled with Daniel Clements at Nationals multiple times, has beaten him in an upset, and he's coming back after a bit of a hiatus. And lastly, we've got Charlie Yang, formerly won Nationals at 50 in the 59s. I believe still has like one of the top totals ever in the 59s. And now is been in the 66s for a bit. And yeah, these are our top 6 competitors here, and all of them are going to do something crazy. So, Adriana, I'll let you start with this.
Yeah, pretty much a lot of what you said. It's just a really stacked class. I believe 705 is the total that won Worlds last year. So all of these competitors are capable of going over that, and also capable of going over the world record total, which sits at, I believe it's 710.5. And I mean, they're all nominated, minus Rodrigo Manzo. The top 5 competitors are all nominated within 10 kilos of the world record, or above that, like way above that. Daniel Clements. So it's just going to be a super, super exciting battle to see. Austin's coming in. I haven't looked too much into their trainings, by the way, so excuse me if I get something wrong, but Austin's coming in as the young junior. He's coached by, I believe, Joey Flex. He's going to be looking to make a lot of progress. He's a junior. I think he's only 19 or 20, which is crazy that he's already putting up a 702.5 kilo total. He's going to be looking to blow past that. And then, kind of like Mike said, we've got Charlie Yang, having moved up a weight class in the past few years. He actually beat Austin at Raw Nationals in September on body weight. So kind of a rematch between those two as well. And then Jonathan Garcia is kind of an interesting one. He went to Worlds in 2022 and he won Nationals that year. So he has a national title behind him. And last year he missed out on Worlds because Brian Lay took the title in the world spot. But he competed at NAPF championships, and that's where he crossed over the 700 kilo mark. He has always been somewhere around there, like in the 690s, 680s, but at that meet he finally crossed over and hit 703 kilos. He hit a world record squat of 275.5, and if you've been watching his training, he put up a 285 kilo squat, and his depth has always been kind of in question, but when I was looking at that squat, I thought he sunk it. I thought it looked good. So he does have a cut coming in, so it'll be interesting to see how far he pushes his massive squat in the class. And I mean, if you add 10 kilos to his total, that he's already at around 715. So we'll see what he does. Morgan Aquino Garcia, kind of a rematch between him and Daniel. Morgan has a big bench. He's probably going to be looking to take the national bench record, and we'll have a chip there. Although I don't think it'll matter because Daniel will end up having a chip in the deadlifts, most likely. And yeah, and then we have Daniel Clements, like possibly the best 66, 67 kilo lifter in the world. He is on paper with his total, but we've yet to see it on an international stage. And he kind of teased with crossing over, but I think initially after nationals, he said he was just staying. I'm not exactly sure on that information, but he's finally crossing over. He's bringing over his crazy 745.5 kilo total. And he is the strong favorite to win just because he is nominated 30 kilos over the next competitor in Morgan Aquino Garcia. But Morgan has beat him before. And sometimes Daniel's deadlifts give everyone a scare. For instance, at nationals, I think he actually missed his opening deadlift, and everyone kind of had to hold their breath, and then he was able to come back on his second and make a total and then further that on his third. But yeah, his deadlifts are always somewhat in question just because of balance issues. He does have to make a small cut, although like Mike said earlier, I think he's within the class. He did at his qualifying meet weigh in at 69 kilos. So I don't know if that's his walking around weight. I don't know if that's telling, but we've seen Pana cut from like 70 kilos before. So I'm sure Daniel will be fine. And he's the favorite to win, but he's just going to have his deadlift show up to form. And yeah, we'll see if he can deadlift over 700 pounds like he did at nationals. And I'm sure no matter what, even if he has a somewhat a bad day in squat or bench, or if he misses his opener in the deadlifts or something, I think he's going to be loading up for that win no matter what, just because I think the Powerlifting America National title doesn't mean as much to him just because he has won USAPL Raw Nationals against a stacked class, against a lot of these same competitors. So I think that world's team spot is really going to mean a lot to him. And I think he would rather bomb than than not pull for the win. So that's going to be fun to see.
I guess it's my turn, right? So
Yeah, sure.
it's kind of cool to see like everyone's aspects. So for example, let's say Austin Nikolai, he's the young junior coming in, right? Then you have Charlie Liang, the big puller, Jonathan Garcia, the big squatter, Morgan Aquino, the big bencher, and then Daniel, the demigod. Basically, he's the ruler of this class. It looks like he has a crazy pull on him. I know he does sit a little heavier though, like you said, he was 69 at that qualifier meet, but I'm pretty sure that's like after eating breakfast, drinking water and all that, because at nationals he did hit 740 5.5, and he was only weighing 66.7, so that's not too far off, it seems like. And it looks like he wasn't struggling to make weight because he was zero 0.8 kilos away from the weight class, which is a pretty big margin, I'd say, especially if you're narrowly trying to cut weight, right? Like for me, for example,
I
I
think,
was
sorry,
70.
I'll just add something in. I think he did say too that he was like eating the day of. So if he wanted to, he could have easily made 66 that day, but they
Yeah,
just
for sure.
decided not to. Anyways,
Yeah,
go on.
he's been posting his body weight a bit. I know Garcia sits a little heavier though. He did post his body weight not too long ago. It was around I think 150 if I remember correctly, which is what is that, around like 68 kilo. So he's cutting 2 kilos. That's not too bad. Austin Nikolai, he's young, like I said, so he has not the newbie gains, but his recoverability is probably pretty high, and he has the most room to gain. But he is quite tall as well. That's the thing. So he's a lengthy lifter. Even though he's lengthy, his squat is pretty good for the class. Bench is kind of lacking, and deadlift is pretty solid as well. I can see him totaling around 715, 720, which would give everyone in this class to run for their money, especially Daniel Clemens if he can't show up to form and execute the deadlift. Because even though he's strong, he's the strongest here by far. He is pretty finicky when it comes to execution, especially on that deadlift. He has the potential to pull, 710, 720, 730 even, but he's been messing up even on openers. So it all depends how he shows up. Strength's not going to be an issue, like I said. Morgan Aquino has beat him in the past. So maybe at nationals, him knowing he doesn't have anyone behind him helped mentally. So maybe him now, having, 4 or 5 competitors that can potentially beat him if he has an off day, that might, shake him in his boots a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, if he just sits back a little bit, executes what he knows he has, and not, push for 750, 760, I think he can, walk away with a 730, 735 total, win it pretty comfortably. And he has the last say regardless. The only one I can see potentially outpulling him would be Charlie Yang. But even then, like, I still see him pulling enough to exceed that 730, 740 mark. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Garcia has the potential to squat 280, 285. His last 285 squat that he recently posted was pretty sunk. It was RP10 for sure though, but I thought it was comp standard depth. But with the weight cut, we'll see how that affects him, because even though it's only 2 kilos, 2 kilos at 66 is not the smallest amount. So yeah, we'll see. And then Rodrigo Manzo, I don't see him in the contention for the podium, but he's just outside, I'd say, those top 6, right? Top 5 competitors. And over time, I can see, especially a squat, I can see that going up because I think the squat is what's lacking the most for him out of all the other competitors. But yeah, I think it's a somewhat of a favorite. Like 60%, Daniel Clements is taking it home, 40% the field. But it all depends how the pressure of the competition and the other competitors, how that affects him, because strength's not going to be an issue. It's more so his execution on the day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I got Aquino in second place. He's a very good executor, has a crazy bench. And then I got Nikolai at third, because he just has, the most potential, I think, because he is so young. He's like 19, I believe, maybe even 20. He has the highest, I think, teen dots of all time as well. So crazy kid. And then I got probably Charlie in fourth because he does have that big pull. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. I got Clemens, like I said, clear cut favorite.
So you just mentioned that you have 60% for Daniel and 40% of the field. So
Yeah.
people are actually asking me for odds, and I said I'd give them odds. So who of that 40% of the field, who do you think like, if not Clements, then most of that 40% you're giving to Morgan?
I'd probably say 20% Morgan, and only because he is coming off that injury that he had to pull out of Nats for. But if he's back to form and he's building momentum, I can see him around, the 725, 730 range, which if Daniel messes up, the weight cut goes bad or something, then I can see Morgan beating him. But like I said, Daniel has the last say. So if he really wants, he can load up for the win. If he misses it, oh well. But Aquino has the subtotal, especially like that bench, like I said. But yeah, I think Aquino's 20%, and then everyone else is sharing that 5% split.
Okay. JJ, what do you think?
Okay, so I think y'all covered pretty much everything, but I don't know if y'all saw, but Jonathan Garcia hit I think it was a 265 deadlift, and it was just so speedy. I think that's a secret weapon coming into this, where he might pull like 280, 282, something crazy compared to what he did his last meet. And his 285 I think it's pretty solid. He might be heavy, but considering that he hit, I think 275 going into his last meet cut, and then did that again on the platform, or 272, I think, on the platform. I'm pretty confident that he has 285 on the platform. So I do think Dan Clements is a favorite, but Jonathan Garcia could sneak into second. He's my second. And what's also interesting about this class is that there's like 3 guys that if they went to Sheffield, I'd be pretty confident in them getting first or second, which is kind of crazy. I think they can break the record, if they have a decent meet and by a margin that, probably would have won them Sheffield if they don't like cap, you know what I mean? So I have Dan first, Jonathan second. I have Morgan in third. Then for fourth and fifth, it's so close between Austin and Charlie. I have them at the same total, but I think Charlie probably pulls a little more, so I'll have him at fourth. But yeah, this class is just that. It's insane.
Yeah, okay. So you took what I was going to say. Nobody has said it. I was like, okay, I'm going to add it. Nobody had mentioned the deadlift for Jonathan. I'll get to that later. But so my take for this class is that we have 6 people who all potentially can total 700, and all potentially, if they were the U.S. Nominee to Worlds, would be in the battle for first. And it would have been 7. So I'll break this into 2 groups of 3, right? It would have been a group. There's a group of 3 who I think have a shot at the podium if the people in the top 3 like miss lifts, making jumping for placing, and then there's the 3 who are battling for first. So, and it would have been 4 battling for first if Brian was here. I think he's in that higher tier, but he's not there. So I'll start with the 3 who are going to be pushing for maybe for the podium. So we got Rodrigo Manzo, and like was mentioned before, he's a strong lifter, but it'll be very difficult with his squat to really even break into the podium. Forget about coming to first. He's been posting and saying how people are sleeping on him, and to an extent they are, but I think it's just because his lifts just don't match up to the top of this class. Like, it's still, he'd be the best in basically every other country, and I think if he got the world bid, would be competitive for the podium at Worlds, but I think he would be more competitive for the podium at Worlds than the podium at this Nationals. He's got a solid deadlift. He's pulled 300 before, but he does have grip issues and he misses plenty of deadlifts in competition. His squat is like in the 230 range and it's just not enough. So I think on a good day for him, he totals 700, maybe a little bit over on a really good day, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Then we have, so I have him probably finishing in 6th, but it could be like, it'll be depending on what people decide to do for placing. So it could be anywhere really 4th to 6th. Then we got Charlie, who I would have put him a little bit higher, but he said, I think he recently had COVID and whatever, his prep has been a little off just because of that. He recently squatted 230, which is still a 17 and a half below his best squat, but it moves very easy. So even with the weird prep, I still think he has the ability to potentially hit a small PR on squat. Bench, his best bench is 157 and a half. Haven't really seen anything to make me think he's anywhere significantly past that. And his best pull, I believe, is 297 and a half. He's pulled 300 in training. Even that was kind of comfortable. I'm not sure how much he's recovered on deadlift recently from whatever time he missed training. I think he is capable of more than 700. I think on a good day, maybe like 710, something in that range. I think he will potentially be pulling for the podium if one of the top 3 ends up missing lifts or pushing too far. But I don't think he's a favorite for the podium. And then we got Austin, who's young and pushing. So he already totaled 702 and a half at Raw Nats, which was like 6 months ago. Since then, he just did his qualifier meet, which he didn't push at all, really. Took some chilled attempts. In training, he hasn't done anything that like significantly would show a crazy increase. Like generally for the youngest lifters, you would think maybe they would put the most in their total. Just they're newer to the sport, they have more room to add. But like Joe mentioned, he is a taller lifter, so it's going to be difficult to stay in the 66 class, or to stay to like put on any significant mass while being in the class. He's got a really good squat. I think he could probably chip it a little bit, but I would say like 265 is best. I see him probably going with 265 to 270. His bench, though, is just not enough really for me to think he has a shot in this like super competitive class. His best bench is, I think, 142 and a half, and that's not going to cut it. So even with a small PR there, like let's say 145, 147, and then deadlift, his best deadlift is 295 from Nationals. He hasn't posted anything like crazy heavy, but he has posted some lighter stuff like rep work that looks like his deadlift is increasing a little bit. So I think he could probably be potentially good for 300 to 305 maybe. I expect on a good day him to maybe get to like 715, something like that on a good day, but that would take a really good day and more likely probably just in the low 700s, like similar to his previous best. And then we have the top group of 3 who I think are the 3 competitors who are really battling for the first spot. So I'll just start with the heavy favorite. So, I mean, I don't know how heavy, but the big favorite obviously is Daniel Clements, just because he's put up like, I mean, he's gone 745 and 745.5. Like he's twice put up numbers that like nobody's ever even dreamed of in this class. He has a solid squat, a solid bench, and the best deadlift in the world. It comes down to execution here. He's mostly executed. I'm not like super worried about execution. Like he is a little finicky, but it's not like he goes like on average whatever and just misses most of his lifts. He averages like 7 for 9, which is not the best and could lead him to issues. And he's also missed deadlifts a bunch of times, which that's the big issue. So with such a big deadlift and potentially needing deadlift jumps, missing a couple deadlifts is where he can potentially not win. I do expect him to win. I think he'll probably squat somewhere in the 260 range. He'll probably bench in the low 160s, and he'll pull whatever he needs, which like anywhere between like, he'll probably need somewhere between 310, like if he hits his squats and bench to potentially more, depending on what other people do, and if he misses lifts. But either way, I think he's capable of 350 if necessary. It won't be, 750 total if necessary. It won't be necessary, but like he definitely could do it. I have him probably finishing around 740 and winning, but I could also see with some missed lifts him falling like as low as like 725, in which case the door's open for these next two lifters. So we got Morgan, who has battled him and beaten him previously. His squat is a little bit weaker than Daniel's, but still like in like the potentially the 250 range. I think he squatted 252 and a half before. In training, he hasn't gotten back to that. Doesn't look like recently, but I don't know exactly what he's posting, what he's hiding. He has the best bench here. He has a massive bench. He will break the bench record and probably bench somewhere in the 400-pound range. It'll give him a chip. Not that, like we said, the chip necessarily will be relevant with Daniel pulling what he needs. And then he's got a good deadlift, but not the best. So he'll probably pull somewhere between like 285, maybe up to like 295. He did 282 and a half at his qualifying meet, which is actually his deadlift PR, but it did not look all out. It looked like there was more there. I'm not sure how much. So I think his top end, in my opinion, is probably 730 on a very good day. So I think if Daniel slips, he has a shot, but it would take Daniel to miss like probably miss 2 attempts, which he does often. So even missing 2 attempts, he could still win potentially. But I think Morgan's top end's probably like 730. I expect him probably to go somewhere between 715 and 730. So I think if Daniel slips, he has a shot. And then the other person who I think, honestly, I would have like an exact same scenario is Jonathan Garcia. So his best total is only 703, which he did at NAPFs. But if you've watched his training's been absolutely nasty. I mean, he squatted 285, which is just ridiculous for a 66. I mean, 285 is above what the IPF world record was in the 74s until Sheffield. I mean, people have done more, but for actually in the IPF, that would have been the record. So his squat's crazy. He'll get a chip there. He'll hit something huge. It's going to come down to whether he can get that third squat. He's been called on depth before. If he gets the third squat, he'll be in a very good spot. His bench is only a little bit less than Morgan's. He's like well ahead of all the other competitors on bench. He's I'm not sure what his best bench is. I think it's like something like 175, something in that range. He's done more in training. I think he's benched 182 in training a bit ago. I don't think he's going to do that here, but I expect him probably to be around 175, which would give him a massive which would give him like a huge subtotal lead. But now deadlift, that's his weakest lift. So his best deadlift in comp is, I believe, 257 and a half. Mm-hmm. Now, it's very hard to win when your deadlift is literally 60 kilos less than one of your competitors. But he has a crazy strong squat. He has a very, very strong bench. And his deadlift training has been the best it ever has. So he has very small hands, like if you've seen. So that makes it very hard for him to deadlift. Like I have no idea. He doesn't like clout lift, so I don't think he's ever like pulled like heavy with straps. But like he's the kind of lifter who probably would have like, I don't know, 20, 25 kilos more with straps. But he recently posted a 265 deadlift, which moved really well. The issue is never really like how it moves so much. It's like what he can hold and whatever. But like the 265 moved well and he held it. No, didn't look like sometimes you could hold it for a bit, but it looks like your grip slipping. Here it looked like he had that locked in. So I would say even with like 265, which he could do more, but like even if you just lock him in for 265, I think he's already like contending for if Daniel slips. And now if he can do more, like the 265 did not look like a max. So like let's say you can pull 275, which would be like insane PR on his like comp deadlift, but like based off the 265, it looks like it's there. If he can pull 275, all of a sudden he's in the running for even if Daniel has best day. So I would say if there's one competitor here who theoretically can give Daniel a run for his money, even on a solid day for Daniel, it would be Jonathan. Like 703 is his best comp total. So like he would need a massive like total PR. But like based off his training, like everything just looks good. His squat is like above his best by a decent amount. Meaning it's like 10 kilos over what he's done in competition. Now I don't think he's gonna probably hit 285 here, just like, but even if he hits like 280, 281, something like that. If he hits like 281 on squat, hits like 175 on bench, and then can pull like 270 plus, we're talking already into the 730s. And I think potentially pull more than that. So I think he's the second highest top end. I think he can potentially on a perfect day, like total 735 to 740. And even on a bad day at this point, like unless like he just like gets red lights for like technicalities and misses lifts like that. But on strength, even on a bad day, I think he's probably 715, 720, worst case scenario. So I have him coming in second, and I think he's the biggest threat to Daniel. So I would say, to giving it odds, I still have Daniel as a decently heavy favorite just because he is the strongest here and he has the tactical advantage of he pulls last. So I would say probably I would give it like 65 to 70% Daniel. So I would say he's probably like a 2-1 favorite. So if you want, for all the people, I'll get back to your messages who asked me about the betting odds. I would put him at like minus 250 or something like that. And then I would put Jonathan next with probably like 25% chance. Morgan with like a 10% chance, and none of the other three. I think they all have a 0% chance of actually winning. I think those are the only three who could actually win. So that was my take on this class. Anyone have anything left to add before we move on? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
So we'll go on to one of the boring classes. We got the 74 kilo class, which is just the Austin Perkins show. He is by formula the best lifter ever. We have no idea how far he's going to push here. I mean, his training looks like he's like somewhat peaking. So like it could be he pushes. He's not going to like push for like 850 plus just because there's no reason. But like we'll probably still get to see him do something. I don't know. Maybe he'll try to total 839 because he's going to have to be at 74 this time just so he can officially break Taylor's at 74 instead of being 75. But yeah, there's like nothing to talk about here. If anyone has anything they want to talk about, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll move on.
I mean, he has been pretty vocal about breaking 700 on squat, so he's going to push one lift at least. And then he did hit 205 as of recent on bench. I could see him taking 202 on the platform, and then deadlift probably around that 340 mark, 330-ish, whatever he basically needs to, like you said, break Taylor's official record. But yeah, I know for sure he's going to go for 700 on squat because that's like his, I guess, main goal of this meet. So that's pretty much all I have.
JJ?
I think we should pretend that Perk's an 83 and compare him to Russ and Angelo. That'd be a lot
I
more
like
fun.
that. See, that would be fun, except that like since he doesn't have to like do anything, like it's just optional. It's like what he does. Like that's why like I don't even like, I'm not even gonna like discuss what he's capable of doing just because
I agree
like,
with what Joe said though. I think he's gonna like squat 700, bench 202, and then probably pull 340, which is 860
so you think he's gonna try to push? I'm saying you think he's gonna try to push past. He might. Like I honestly like I'm just disinterested. Like I don't even think I'll watch. Like I'll watch the highlights. If he does go all out, it'll be fun to watch. But like I'm just not like, there's no competitors. It doesn't matter. I mean, not only there's no competitors, but like he doesn't have to do anything. He could just go there and total like 750 and call it a day. Take like second to last warm-ups on each thing, and then he could do what he did in his qualifier meet where he went 21, 25, 25, 75. He could go like 275 squat, which is like a last warm-up. He could take like a 175 bench, which is the last warm-up, and then pull 300, which is the last warm-up, and then leave. Literally. Like he doesn't even have to take any, not even openers, like last warm-ups. So anyway, hey, Johnny, you want to say anything or?
I mean, he
No.
did.
Oh wait, go ahead.
All right. Well, he did say that the plan isn't changing just because Atwood isn't there. Because I did watch his YouTube video, his recent one, and he said regardless of who's showing up, it doesn't matter. The plan's still the same. And all I know is he's concrete on loading that 700 on squat. So it's gonna be a nice total. I'm pretty sure he's gonna go over 850 just because he doesn't need to go out all out on that bench and deadlift just based off recent training numbers. He can take just below his PRs and still, I guess, total PR the day. So I think Russ. Okay, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but him versus Russ is going to be like the true battle, like JJ said. So go on to the next weight class then, so we can put some light on that.
You know, it'd be actually interesting. I think they compete on separate days, but I honestly wish they were in on the same day because they would be in the same flight. So Austin could honestly have like a secondary goal to try to beat whatever Russ does. But anyways, I guess that's a good segue. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, fine. So yeah, we'll just move on to the 83s, which is one of our more like interesting classes. So okay, so the 83s, we have, I guess technically we have like 4 competitors that are relevant for this meet. So we got Angelo, we got Chris Perez, we got Russ, and then we got the person who already competed. So effectively, even though this is a national championship, what this really is, I mean, we're calling it Powerlifting America Nationals. I'm calling it Powerlifting America World Qualifiers. So we have Delaney, who already has his 842.5, which broke the world record from Sheffield. So that is the mark that matters here. One of these 3 has to win and break that. How many do, that's a separate thing, but they have to win as well as at least totaling that. So, Adriana, you want to discuss the lifters?
Yeah, sure. So we did have a dropout with Deuce Gruden. Not sure why. He doesn't really post much, so we wouldn't have known much going in anyways. But then we have return of the 83 kilo king, Russell Orhe. We got Christopher Perez and then Angelo Fortino. So honestly, in my mind, unless they make substantial progress, which they could, I think Angelo and Chris have the capability of beating Delaney's total of 842.5, but I don't think it'll be done. Just because it would be like just kind of out of reach. It'd be over a 20 kilo PR for both of them. So in my mind, at least this is just a between them two, I think it's a good rematch from nationals. But with Delaney's total being there and also with Russ coming back, I don't see them. I would give them maybe a 5% chance of winning, maybe less than 5%, unless Russ bombs out, which could happen. So I'll just say like Angelo's putting up some good numbers in the gym. I think he attempted an 800-pound deadlift at one point, but it kind of went up down. So I think he could do a little under that, like 360 kilos. He did 305 squat. He actually put up a crazy stat on his story the other day. He's never missed a squat since like 2019. But his depth is close and he's gotten 2-to-1 calls. So we'll see how the IPF judges like that, or not IPF, how the Powerlifting America judges like that. I think he'll be fine. I don't know if he'll replicate the 305. Maybe they get a depth call in the second. Maybe he has to go a little below. I don't know. So I do think he has the capability to do like 840, but I don't think it'll happen in this meet just because his bench is just not on par with like what Russ is doing or what Chris is doing. So I think he could go around like 830 or something, which would be phenomenal for him. But he'll probably be trying to pull for positioning on his last deadlift and maybe hit, maybe miss. Maybe he'll just put on exactly what he needs to get second place because Russ will be 2 out of reach. We just don't know. And then Chris, I wanted to talk about a little bit because people have not been mentioning him that much. Like they kind of just been talking about Angelo, Russ, Delaney. I like Chris, I think it's really hard to tell from his training because he's with Kraft now. He's with Marcellus and they don't really he's not putting up big numbers in training, but he did put up a really easy SBD day about a week ago, and just comparing it to what he did at Mega Nationals. He did miss 2 lifts at, not Mega Nationals, at Raw Nationals. He did miss 2 lifts there. And if he had gotten those 2 lifts, he missed his 3rd squat and 3rd bench. If he had gotten it, it would have given him an 830 kilo total. So he obviously has the capability for it. Those 2 numbers, I think they might have been just like 2.5 kilos over what he was capable of for that day. So I think he can go around 830, and that's kind of where I have Angelo too. So it'll be fun to see a little rematch between them. And then we have Russ. And as we know, he's been putting up crazy numbers in the gym. Not so much recently, just because he is coming back down, but he is coming in with the best total of 885 kilos. And it was done in the weight class above, or around 90 kg in South Korea, I think like August 2022. So he's had a long time off. And I think Lucky kind of talked about this a little bit in our last podcast, but he is making the cut down. I think there's, like, some people are saying this could be a battle between the 3, but Russ is just the runaway favorite here, unless he bombs out on depth. So that's kind of the big question here. But in my mind, I see him as having like a 97% chance of winning and beating Delaney's total, just because he had such a long off season to put a lot on his training total. Now, I don't think he's going to do like 885. I don't think he's going to replicate that in this class, but I think he'll be able to. He just executes when he has to. I think he'll be able to beat Delaney's total and make his return to Worlds.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with you as
JJ?
well. Oh, JJ can go, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously Russ is gonna win this. I don't think it's really close. I think Angelo, I really have his best day at around 840, so I'm not really sure if he could take Delaney's record, which doesn't really matter because Russ is definitely gonna break it. And Chris, yeah, his training was pretty sub-maximal, so I had to make some pretty big estimates on him. I have him around a 292 squat, 205 bench, and a 330 deadlift, and that's a 827 total. So I think Angelo will get second at around 840, but that's, his deadlift right now is a big question. I don't really see, I really don't think he could beat Russ, but I don't really see the purpose of switching over just to not, send, to have a chance of getting close to Russ. So I feel like maybe if Russ doesn't get all the squats and maybe only totals around 845, I can see Angelo loading like, around 804 just to try, and that could cause Chris to get second if he misses that. So yeah, I'd rush around 870, which slightly beats Perk. So that's all that matters really.
Okay. Joe.
So I'd say the only person that can really rival Russ, he's not even competing with Delaney. How's the total? I do have Angelo around that 835 and potentially 840, but at that point, he's probably just going to load whatever he needs to beat Delaney's 842.5. But I know Angelo's best squat is 302.5, and he just hit 305 in the gym. Not sure how the depth was because he does have that really slow eccentric into the hole. But if you can just sink a little more, like an inch, make it really, I guess, persuasive to the judges. I think he has 305, just, a quick match. He has hit 170 in the past on bench. So if he matches that and then loads like I think it's like 360, that puts him around 835, I believe. And then he has the potential to do 365. He did it in the gym with the up and down. It just looked like a slight like hiccup or mishap because up and down is not going to make you stronger. It's not going to make you pull more. So he has the strength to lock out 365, and I'll put him at 840, I believe. And I don't know. I think he can out total Perez for sure because Perez has been training some max, but his deadlift wasn't very convincing the other day. I think it was 310. So I have him about 330 on deadlift, 205 on bench, and like 295 on squat, which is around 835, which I believe Angelo already has like in the pocket. Unless he does take that big jump on deadlift, ends up failing it, and totals less than 835. But I think Russ is the clear cut favorite. He's been squatting 340, it feels like every week. So I think 340 is going to be the goal on squat, even with the weight cut. And then bench doesn't look so good as a recent. So if he wants to play it safe, be comfortable, I think 190 is there. So if I just do the math on that, 340 plus 190. And then on deadlift, anywhere from 350 to 360. If he wants to play it safe, he'll go 350. And that already puts him at 880. So just based off my predictions, and I don't think I'm like, I'm super high on them either. I think these are pretty reasonable numbers. And let's say just you take 10 kilos away from every single lift I just said, that's already 850 on the worst day. So yeah, I think he has it in the bag. Russ is the clear cut favorite, and I think he will out total Perk, which is funny to say. But yeah, I think it'll be close. I think Perk, like I said, has around that 850, 860, depending on what he wants on that last deadlift. And I know I'm not supposed to be comparing them different weight classes, but this is pretty much the real battle at the end of the day. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Russ has around 850 on the worst day, 880 on the best day, and I don't see anyone beating him. And I only see Angelo surpassing the 842 besides Russ. So yeah, that's my prediction. Russ is 99% sure, or I guess the odds are 99% sure of his victory. And then Angelo, I give like a 1%, and Delaney making it to Worlds, I'll give him. That's already 0%. There we go. So Russ 100%. Screw it. Clear cut favorite. I got him at 850, 880.
So you go 1,000 to 1 on anything else because Russ 100%.
Yeah. All right. I'll give Angelo 1% then. Or no, Angelo 1%, Delaney 1%, and then Russ 98%. There we go.
Okay, fine. Okay, yeah. So my take on this class is it's the only battle here for the world spot is Russ versus the judges. If Russ makes at least 2 squats, he's going to Worlds. End the story. And I mean, you guys were similar to this, but you thought maybe there was a chance. I don't think Angelo or Chris, either of them, can break past the 842.5. I actually have them in very similar ranges. Angelo hit that 305 squat, but it was pretty difficult, and I'm not sure about the depth there. Like, it wasn't like high, but like it was kind of borderline, and it's his first real Powerlifting America meet, and we'll see how they judge it. Like, I would give it a white light, but that doesn't change the fact that sometimes judges decide to be stricter. But his bench is just bad, and I don't think he could beat Delaney just with a bad bench. So even like I have him, let's say squatting, let's say maybe repeating the 305, benching like 167, and then pulling 360, and that just doesn't get him to 842.5. I think he probably ends up in like the 830 to 835 range, and potentially a little bit lower, potentially in the mid 820s, depending on how things shake out. But I think 840 would be his best possible day. Yeah, so that's where I have him. And then I have Chris like really in the same spot. He hasn't posted anything that like tells me anything crazy, but his best squats in the meets 290, and he did a fairly easy 280 recently. I think he's probably good for 295 to 300 on squat. His bench is by far the best of any of these lifters. His best bench in comp is 202.5. He took 197.5 like easily. Like I think he's good for 205 to maybe even 210. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. And then his best deadlift's 330. He hasn't posted anything on deadlift that like shows me more than that. But even taking 330, I think therefore like on best day maybe squats 300, benches 210, and pulls 330, which would be 840. That would be like a best case. I see him probably totaling somewhere between 825 and 840. So I think his best day is like 840, unless he has some deadlifts that we're just missing that really he's made room. But I think also him and Angelo, both of them, I think realistically we probably see them in the low 830s. And the only way they'd beat Russ is if Russ bombed out. And I guess if Russ went 5 for 9 somehow, like only got his opening squat and only got his opening deadlift maybe, but like it's not going to happen. I'm a little not as high on Russ. I mean, I'm just as high on the percentages of Russ winning, but I'm not like I don't think not that he's not capable. I just don't think he's going to go anywhere near these totals. Like, I think he's probably going to squat like something like 330, bench 195, and pull like 345. So, like, I have him total. I think that's like 860. I think he's capable of more than that, but like, I don't think there's any reason to push past that. And also, just like his squats, I'm not saying they're high now, but they're definitely, his squats are definitely more questionable, and he'll have to appease the judges. And his deadlift like is strong, but sometimes his lockouts look a little soft. So I think he's probably just going to open like light on all these lifts and just like go heavy. But I don't think I think he's going to take thirds that probably all could have had another attempt taken after. If like, let's say he actually needed like he'll probably take not bench, but bench, who knows? But like squat and deadlift, his thirds will probably look kind of like seconds, and I think he probably totals like somewhere between 850 and to maybe to 865 max. I would be super surprised if he actually pushes past that because it's unnecessary. I think he's probably going to be like 850 to 860. That's what I expect. And I would give him like it's hard to get percentages because it's like, what percentage do the refs not like his squats? I don't know. That's what it is. It's not like what percentage does he like go 8 for 9 or the strength. Like, we know the strength's there. Like, we know he executes usually, like, other than like Nats the year he should have bombed out. Like, he's missed 2 lifts out of his last 4 meets. Like, it's not like he averaged 8.5 out of 9 over those 4 meets. Like it's not, I'm not worried that he's gonna all of a sudden go 6 for 9. He doesn't do that. So I would say probably, I guess, give it 92% chance that he wins and gets the qualifying total. Just, I don't know, leave some room for error. And then I give it like 0.5% for both Angelo and Perez of both winning and getting the total. I just don't see it happening. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the 93s. So the 93s, we got 3 competitors. So we got Keiko, who already went. He hit, was 893, right?
Yeah.
93, and then Petrie and Gavin. So Petrie and Gavin, for them to make it their auto ticket to Worlds, they both need to pass 893, and whichever one of them has the higher total. So, Adriana, why don't you start?
Sure. So this is one of the more exciting battles just because no one knows what's going to happen, right? Like, we've got Gavin, who competed like 4 weeks ago at Sheffield and put up his best total yet at 887 kilos. Finally got over the judges overturning his squats, finally got that third squat in, was able to hit a big world record 337 kilo squat. And then he had a bit of a weird bench session where his third bench, he got it on strength, which would have given him an extra 7.5 kilos. And actually, theoretically, like, obviously the play out would have changed as to what Keiko would have done, but theoretically that would have given Gavin like near like an 894.5 kilo total. So he has the capability for it. It's just that his third bench got called on depth, and he's been getting these. It's just because he benches narrow. Like, obviously, he doesn't have a bench. He doesn't have a super high arch. He has a bro bench, but just he benches narrow, and it's like his anatomy that sometimes he gets these weird depth calls. So that's, I think, is what happened at Sheffield. So he's kind of got his cards laid out on the table just because he competed so recently. And then we have Petrie, who everyone's been waiting for him to go over to the IPF just because of his capability. He previously competed as a 90 kilo lifter, and put up totals that were competitive in the 93 kilo class. So now he's got a chance to eat up into the class. He doesn't have to make as big of a cut down. And he put up 887.5 kilos. So this battle is just going to be super fun just because they are nominated only 0.5 kilos between them, and they have to fight against Keiko's 893 total. Petrie, he competed at Raw Nationals last, or he did a qualifier, but we don't count that. He competed at Raw Nationals last. I think that's where he put up his 887. No, he put up 887.5 at Carolina Primetime, and then his total came down a little bit, I think, at Raw Nationals. But he has the capability to do 895, which he has done in previous years. He did it once as a slightly heavy 93 at the Virginia Pro. So it's like both Gavin and Petrie have the capability to beat Keiko's total, but there's so many question marks. Like Gavin, he's got to get his squats in. He did it at Sheffield, but we got to see it at Nationals. Petrie, we just don't see his training that much. He doesn't really post. And it's going to be his first time crossing over into the Federation. He's never competed on the international stage before, so now he's going to seek out the opportunity to do that. And then Keiko decided, after he got his total at Sheffield, he decided not to compete at nationals. I think it just would have been too much for him. He's talked about having injuries in the past just from competing too much. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. It's just going to be a super interesting class. And I think one of the only classes where there's not really a clear favorite, if that makes sense. Like there's other classes where it's super close, like the 69 kilo class, for instance. But Gabby is mostly the favorite, I think, in the eyes of the public. But here it's just very, very close. The 93s are always close, and it's no different here. So it's going to be really exciting to see who's able to get the world's team spot, especially because so many people have said, oh, I wish we could bring three 93s to worlds, but unfortunately this year it's just not going to happen. There will most likely not be any alternate spots, and only one of our US 93s is going to get to compete at worlds.
Also, for the record, you can't ever bring 3 in any weight class.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think?
So, Petrie, he did all his, well, at least all his recent meets at 90 kg. So he has that room to gain 3 kilos wiggle room, which is a lot. Even though he is a 90 kg and he is someone in the heavier class, you can call it, 3 kilos is still 3 kilos. And if you just look at his database, when he totaled 895, he missed a 327.5 squat, right? And recently he missed his 317.5 squat when he was at the, I think, what was it, the Carolina Primetime, like you said. So if, let's say, he just takes 320, a comfortable 320, doesn't try to shoot for the moon, go 327, but just a comfortable 320, adds around 5 kilos on the bench from the weight gain, so 210, and just matches his deadlift, that's already a 15 kilo total PR. So he might surpass the 900 kilo barrier, which I think is pretty plausible. And Gavin just competed, so the fatigue, how much momentum can you really gain in back-to-back preps like that? Not even preps, back-to-back blocks, peaking blocks, basically. So I don't really see him breaking Keiko's, I believe, 893. But I can definitely see Petrie breaking the 893 comfortably, and maybe even going to the 900s if he just returns to form from like 2-3 years ago when he was a 93. And like I said, he doesn't even have to go above and beyond his 93 capabilities. He can go a little below it and still end up around that 895, not maybe even 905 range. Because I know he's been chasing Jesse Norris for quite a while now, and this will be the opportunity to do it, and maybe save some gas for worlds to not boost up the record. But even then, I see like even Gustav Hedlund, for example, them two would be a nice battle to go over 900. So I think the world record's gonna be broken regardless. But I think Petrie is gonna do it at this meet, unofficially at least, and then go on to go to Worlds and battle against Gustav. And that would be a good battle, I think, because they're neck and neck. And I know Gustav had a couple kilos left on his deadlift too. But just for this meet, I think Petrie has it in the bag. And I don't even think Gavin's going to surpass Keiko's record simply because he's already back-to-back meet preps. And that fatigue is not very friendly for a 93 kilo lifter, right? If it was more so like a 74 or 66, they could probably get away with it. But we're squatting 740, 750 and pulling 740, 750. It's going to be kind of hard to recover from that in only a month span. So Yeah, that's my take. I got Petrie as I'm gonna say 55% favorite. Keiko at least to go to Worlds at least. So Petrie 55%, Keiko around 30, and then Gavin with the remaining 15. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Petrie has it in the bag with medium difficulty, I'd say.
Well, I'll just say like having it in the bag, 55% is not having it in the bag.
All right, well,
That's like
it's over 50-50, so I'll consider it like that.
okay. I mean, I'm not arguing with like any of your numbers or any of your analysis. I'm just saying like 55 is okay. You think he's the favorite, but like
Yeah.
there's still right. And also you said like you don't think Gavin really's got a shot. 15% is still a pretty decent shot. So okay, fine. So you think you wouldn't be shocked if Gavin beats Petrie?
I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked. No.
Okay.
It all depends on the
JJ,
bench
how about
too.
you? Oh yeah, for sure.
I think they both have pretty big question marks. For Gavin, it's how are you going to handle bouncing back after beating 5 weeks ago? For Petrie, it's pretty much a squat. I don't think he's posted a squat at all since nationals, or like since a couple months after nationals at least. And for that, I just squat around 317, just playing it safe. But he also has 3 kilos to gain, so maybe it's way higher than that. Who knows at this point? He hasn't posted anything. I have both of their top ends for the day around 895, which is above Keiko's total. But the question marks just, make it a little bit harder. But I think there's more of a chance that Petrie, goes 317, around 207, 370 until it's 895. I think that's a higher chance of happening than Gavin, bouncing back, squatting around 340, benching 210, and pulling. Like 345. So just because I think it's the safer pick, I have Petrie winning too.
And what percentage would you give for Petrie? What percentage for Gavin, and what percentage for neither of them breaking Keiko? So Keiko.
I would say Keiko 25, Petrie, I guess 50, then Gavin 25.
Okay. Yeah. So okay. So basically, my take on this class is just that I think Petrie theoretically has the highest top end. We haven't seen anything. We haven't seen him squat. The last time he squatted was at Raw Nationals, where he finished with 310, and before that he missed 317.5 at Carolina Primetime, and before that he bombed out trying 320 twice at the Pro Series. So I have no idea what that means. I don't know where his squat is. We have no idea. We don't know his strength. We don't know whether he's been squatting deep. We don't know any of that. His bench, we don't know that either, right? His last meet, he missed 207.5 on his third bench, and he'd hit well more than that multiple times. At even like he had hit 212.5 previously. He hit 215 at a different meet previously. He hit 210. So he hit all these numbers. So not sure where his bench is either. And his deadlift, he has the strongest deadlift of any of these 93s. He's pulled 372.5 previously, and that was even at 90. So, and right, the other factor is we know he can eat up, right? So, and we know he has been eating up because he weighed 97.2 at his qualifying meet. So presumably that means he's not just like sitting at 93, he's probably sitting at like 95, 96, and then gonna work cut. So he's definitely a bigger human than he was. But end of the day is for him to break that 893 mark, he's got to execute. I think it's possible, very possible. I think like he on a perfect day could probably total like probably total 907 or something like that, like 2K. But I'm not confident in him taking the 893. Then we have Gavin, who Gavin just had the massive squat, but obviously it's a quick turnaround. It's literally we're talking like 5 weeks, and he lost one of those weeks because of one of his one of his companies. He was I think in the UK for a week, like doing some content and stuff, whatever. So he basically lost one of his 5 weeks for prep. So we'll see. I mean, he squatted 337. Will he repeat that? Hard to. I mean, he might have had more than 337 even, but like hard to imagine he necessarily repeats that. Deadlift, he did 345 and probably had a little more, which already was a PR. And then there's bench. So bench was the weird one where he hit 205 on the second and then went to 212.5, got red lighted. 212.5 already would have been a drop off over his last couple meets. So that's the one that where maybe like even without like a real prep, like if he just fixes it up. So the question is, if he gets the 7.5 kilos back from bench and loses 7.5 kilos from squat, let's say, like squat's like 330, he's in the same range. But the difference is now, even though he's not going to deadlift last, he knows exactly what he needs. So he doesn't know what he needs to beat Petrie, but he knows what he needs to break Keiko. So I think if he goes 5 for 6 or 6 for 6 on bench and squat, that he will at least load for Keiko's number. And if he goes 6 for 6 on squat and bench, I think he actually might hit it. So I'm not confident in either of them breaking it, but I think they both could. I'll go and say a different direction. I'll say 40% Keiko, 35% Petrie, 25% Gavin. So I think a little bit more than half the time, one of them breaks the 893, and Petrie a little favored in that, but not heavy. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of the three outcomes happen. I wouldn't be surprised if neither of them hit 893. I wouldn't be surprised if Petrie did. I wouldn't be surprised if Gavin did, and I wouldn't be surprised if they both did. Like I don't think any of them are going to hit 905. Whether or not they could on a different day, I think if one like maybe like one of them like let's say whoever goes first, Gavin goes first. Maybe Gavin pulls for 893.5 or whatever. Yeah, 893.5. And then Petrie goes and just pulls for 894 because that's all that matters. So I think like maybe we see them both like in the 895 range just chipping the record. But I also can easily see them both pulling for 893 and both falling short and ending up with like 885 or 882 or whatever it is. So I wouldn't be surprised with any outcome. Okay, so let's move on to next up. We got the 105s. So 105s is one of the classes where I guess in a way, thankfully, you're not battling against these numbers that have already been set. So in the 105s, we've got Ashton, we got Mikey Davis returning, and I guess we also have Dwardley Edward. I don't think he's necessarily going to be competing with them, but he has put up pretty big totals previously. Adrian, you want to start?
Yeah. So like you said, we've got Mikey Davis returning competitor at Worlds, returning. He competed at the first Sheffield. He's got experience behind him, and he's going to be trying to beat his total, 912.5. I think he last competed at Sheffield. Is that correct? Or did he compete before?
No, he competed. Mikey Davis? Competed at Worlds.
Oh yeah, he competed at Worlds, of course. But he wasn't able to put up the same total that he did. I don't have his open powerlifting up. This is bad radio. But yeah, he wasn't able to put up the same total that he was able to do at Sheffield. There we go. He put up 885 at Worlds and came in 4th. So I imagine he's not happy about that. I think he was dealing with a little bit of maybe some injuries going in. I'm not exactly sure. I think they did say that. And he's going to be trying to best his total. He's been competing a long time. He's got experience in the game. And then next up, we've got Dwardley Edward, better known as Debo, the guy who deadlifts conventional deadlifts in the suit. And it's interesting because he has been kind of floating around between federations doing USAPL, USPA, WRPF. So his best total is from the American Pro. So obviously that's WRPF. They got the 24-hour weigh-in. They got a deadlift bar. Although I don't think the weigh-in matters that much because he is filling out the class still, or like we assume so. And he's got the big deadlift on him. So it just depends on if he's able to match that with a stiff bar. He did compete at the Pro Duel in January, but unfortunately wasn't able to get his third attempts and ended up with 877.5. So we just have to see if he executes or not. I think it's a good sub battle between him and Mikey Davis, and they're both kind of pulling about the same amount. So it's an interesting storyline there. But Ashton is really the heavy favorite here. If we had to give percentages, I think Ashton is like 98% that he's going to win. He's not one to bomb out of a meet. He's not one to have execution issues. I guess sometimes they take the craft jump to his third deadlift or something and they miss it. Kind of like he did at nationals, but still at nationals, raw nationals in September, he went 7 for 9 and put up a PR total of 968 kilos. He doesn't have a cut. He last competed at the Texas meet in November, weighing in at 103 kilos. So he doesn't have that factor going in. There's really no question marks for him. And this isn't really going to be that much of a battle at all for the title. And I think the real battle here is that he's the heavy favorite to win, and he's going to be looking to go up against Anatoly Novopismeni at Worlds to kind of solidify that he is the best 105 kilo lifter in the world, because he is considered to be the best 105 kilo in the world. He just hasn't been to that international stage, minus when he competed as a sub junior, but he hasn't been to Worlds in the open division yet. So he's finally crossing over, gonna try to do that. Gonna try to win Worlds, go to Sheffield, put up something crazy there. And yeah, I think he's the runaway favorite here.
Okay. Joe, what do you think?
Pretty much the same thing. Ash is the runaway favorite, but it'll be a nice battle between Debo and Mikey. Both have question marks on their own end. You know, Mikey with the grip. His bench is looking crazy though, but I know his grip in the past, you know, going from mix to hook and stuff, hasn't been very consistent. And then Debo, we have no idea how the deadlift bar is going to affect him, 2-hour weigh-in and all that. So that'll be a nice battle. And I probably have Mikey simply because he has been in a stiff bar federation is almost I think his entire career, right? So that's all he knows. So he's pretty consistent in that sense, but his grip may be an issue. We'll see. But Ashton is definitely the heavy favorite. And I think him versus Anatoly, or in his mind, it's him versus Anatoly. And he's just using this meet just to get into Worlds. And he's not even looking so much at his competitors because he does have a pretty big gap. And he's a very consistent lifter too. So we'll see. He's not sitting heavy either. He doesn't have to cut weight. Like he weighed 103 in his last meet, and that was just his qualifier meet. So he's probably eating breakfast and drinking water before that as well. And he still weighed 103. So he has room to potentially grow into the class. And he told 968 at Nats. He failed the second bench or failed his third bench and third deadlift. So potential 970, almost 980 on a perfect day, which I don't see him needing, obviously. But if he's pushed at all, which I don't like see that happening, he has the potential to go 970. But I think he's going to take some chill thirds, save some gas for Worlds, and just walk away with the easy first place and totaling around 950, and not struggling at all in his third attempts.
JJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been putting up around a 965 total, pretty chill, around 370 squat, 215 bench, 380 deadlift. I have Mikey in second. I think it's been pretty cool to see him come back pretty fast. I remember, not that many months ago, he was squatting off of benches, doing box squats and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we'll probably squat around 327, around where his best is. Put up around 932 or something like that. And yeah, Debo, I think I think he'll be in third. But yeah, the big battle will be Ashton versus Anatoly. And Ashton will win that too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I honestly don't even have like much to say about this class. There's no battle for first. Ashton's going to win. That's it. And then second and third. Actually, I remember first seeing Debo 5 years ago at 2019 Junior Nats when he was battling against Bob, and Bob loaded the wrong number and he tied him, but Bob was heavier, so Bob lost. I was screaming at the laptop, but But like since then, yeah, Debo's like he's gone back and forth. He's gone USPA, then he did a WRPF tested meet, then the USCPA. He's gone everywhere. So yeah, he's been done a lot of deadlift bar stuff since then. He did pull a 360 on a stiff bar recently that moved okay. I think he's probably good for like on a good day something like 910, and then which like Mikey's best is 915. So I think on a good day they're probably around the same. I don't expect Mikey to come back and hit like some sort of massive PR here coming back from injury. So I think like they'll probably battle for second, and probably depending on how well they do, which like second place will probably finish somewhere between like 900 and 915. That's my guess. And third will probably be around there a little behind. So it'll be a nice battle for second. But Ashton's going to come and he's going to win. That's all I have to say. Anyway, so let's move on to the 120s, where we have a battle mainly just between Bob and Devin Williams. So, Adriana, what are your thoughts? Oh, wait. Actually, you know what? No, we also have, we have more than that. We also have, is there, oh, no, we don't. Never mind. Okay, just those two.
Pretty much. I'll get started. I will say there's like kind of a sub battle for third place that's a little deep. We've got Richard Andre, kind of the same spot as Debo, and I believe they train at the same gym too. Kind of going back and forth between federations and now making the switch over. So he's put up 922.5, but he put up, I think it was 907.5 at the pro duel. And then kind of close behind him is legend Mike Tuchscherer with an 895 kilo best total. So we'll see if, or best total within the past 2 years. I'm not sure if his actual best total. We'll see if he can cross over to that 900 kilo mark. And then kind of the same thing with Zebulon Moore, newcomer coming in. So that's kind of the sub battle for the third. But the real battle here, like you said, is between Devin Williams and Bob Matthews. So it's really interesting because Devin is coming in. He's around 120. He competed at 125 at Raw Nationals, where he was in a tight battle. So he's no stranger to competition, and he came away as the winner. It was a really interesting battle actually, and he put up a 950.5 kilo total, which was nearly 50 kilos over his best total. So he's been making a ton of progress. I believe he's under Flex. I think he's coached by Flex or Big Body. And he's got a battle here with Bob, because Bob is just a phenom. He hasn't been competing that long. We all remember when he was kind of a meme lifter, and then he started to take it a little bit more seriously. And I mean, he started out as a light 93 in 2019, and now he's in the 120 kilo class. And he's not going to weigh in anywhere near 120. He's just moving up from the 110, 105 kilo class. He's just moving up, so he's probably going to weigh like 108 maximum. But it's just crazy that Bob's total is going to be highly, highly competitive in this class. Like, he'll probably cross near that world record total, Dennis Cornelius, of 978.5. And he's not like nowhere near filled out. And then he is the strong favorite, Bob is. But y'all, sorry, my video cut out, but whatever. He is the strong favorite, but Devin is going to be right there. He had an attempt to put up a 980 kilo training total. He did miss his last deadlift in that SBD day, but his training's looking strong. And with Bob, I haven't looked too much into their training, but Bob, he's been trying to adapt to the bench rule. He literally just tried to arch as the least amount possible, and still will probably press over 500 pounds. He switched over to conventional. I believe his squat stance, he changed a little bit. So Bob is just a phenom, and in my book, he's the strong favorite to win, but he is going to have to execute against Devin. And I just think in my mind that even if Bob doesn't have the best day, I don't think he's quite had that super total meet yet. At Raw Nationals, he placed second behind Ashton, who we mentioned in the other class. But he has the capability to, like, one day in the near future hit 1,000 kilos in this class. So in my mind, he's the favorite. And I think even if he doesn't have the best day on squat and bench, I think he will load up whatever he needs for that win, regardless.
Okay. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty much a battle between Dev and Bob. Dev did have that potential 980 SBD day if he hit that, I think 380 deadlift, which would have been huge, right? Because Dev's bench alone is one of the best in the game, almost 600 pounds. The 265, it looked not too heavy, but I think he's going to try to match that unless he does have like a crazy bench taper. But I know he is cutting weight slightly because he was around 125 for Nats. So he has to make that 120 range for this meet coming up. But if you can match that bench 265, match the squat as well, and then maybe potentially pull 370, 375 because that 380 was obviously his limit. Unless, like I said, he does end up tapering well and just matching all those numbers on meet day. Best case scenario, that's the only way I see him rivaling Bob. So like I said, top end 980 if he matches, and then Bob, he just did that qualifier meet and pulled 385 like out of nowhere sumo, right? So I think Bob has the potential for a 390 pull. And if he just matches his Nats performance on squat and bench and you just add 390 on top of that, that's gonna be, I think, 987, if I did the math correctly. So if he just matches the subtotal and pulls around 390, which I think he's capable of, he's already well above Dev, not well above, but he's comfortably above Dev's all-time, I think, greatest potential for this meet. So it's Bob's, I guess, meet to lose. I got him around, 50. Now I'll give him 60, 65%, and then Dev 35%. But I wouldn't be shocked at all or even surprised if Dev was able to pull off the upset, because one missed attempt from Bob, and I think Dev can squeeze in there. But like I said, Bob does have a slightly heavier pull, so he can do whatever he wants at the end and just plug in the winning pull and secure the dub and go to Worlds. But Dev definitely has the potential. It all depends how that weight cut goes because I don't think I've ever seen him at 120. At least as of recent when he had this crazy blow up 50 kilos in his last national meet. So yeah, he has a potential. It all depends if he tapers and how that weight cut goes. But I do have Bob winning it by around 15, maybe even 20 kilos if Dev potentially pulls something crazy at the end or tries to attempt something crazy to just push Bob a little more. But yeah, that's my analysis. Dev might even I guess, use a super heavy second attempt just to chip Bob and force him to execute a third and surpass him on his second by 2.5 maybe, and then force Bob to, jump another 2.5 and just, force him to execute it. Even though strength may not be the issue on the day for Bob, execution might. So yeah, we'll see. But Bob's obviously stronger. Bob's eating into the meat as well. He's like what 107, 108 right now, so he can eat as much as he wants from now until then. Have a crazy taper with the extra recovery boost from the calories versus Dev. Like I said, he's cutting weight. So yeah, we'll see. But I got Bob around 65% favorite, and then Dev for the 35%.
Okay. JJ, what do you think?
I think both these guys have the potential to break the world record. Not that they can do it at this meet, but I think that it's gonna be pretty close to people might think. If Dev does taper, similar to how he did for Nats, I see him putting 2 keys on weight bench in the gym, and maybe if the taper goes very well, pulling the 380 that he missed in training, and squatting the same thing, which will give him around 982 kilo total. And Bob, I think he has a chance to put his best squat on the platform. He hasn't done that yet, but his squats going to this meet look insane. So I believe in 365, a chill 240 bench. Just saying how the calls play out with the depth rules and everything. Oh, then yeah, I can see 390 being possible, conventional. That'd be really cool lift to see in person. I mean, not in person, but a cool lift to see actually go down. He's approaching 400 kilos, which is really cool. And yeah, that's all.
Okay, yeah. So, my thoughts on the class. First off, I should give apologies because what Richard Andre, that's his name.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So right, okay. I don't think he's going to be competing to win this, but the total that I think he could probably do would actually probably would have won the 120s last year. So he's going to put up a really nice, respectable total. Just he has two competitors here that are going to put up something massive. I don't think Devin Williams is really. I'd be very surprised if Devin Williams did something that was over the 978 world record. I think he's probably good for like 970. And what he actually does depends on like what he has to load for either like to jump into first and push Bob or whatever the specifics are. Bob, I think, is definitely capable of passing that 978, even like with switching his bench due to the bench rules. His deadlift sumo conventional, no matter what it is, his deadlift is strong. His squat is extremely strong. I think he's probably like 15 to 20 kilos stronger than Devin, which is effectively as a 120 male one deadlift attempt. So if Bob hits his attempts, I think he wins straight up. If Bob misses and Devin goes perfect, then it'll become close. Like if Bob like goes like 345 second squat and then jumps to 360 and misses or something like that, and then Devin hits three squats and hits three benches, then it might become more interesting on deadlifts. End of the day, Bob is going to pull last, so Bob's going to load what he needs to win. The question is whether Devin can even jump into first with his third deadlift. So I'm hoping that it's close enough for however it happens that Devin can pull into first and force Bob to hit something, even if it's something like 380 that Bob can, or 375, something that Bob can do comfortably, 375, 380. It would still be nice. And I mean, if Devin's having a really good day, maybe he could force Bob to pull something closer to 390, which would actually make it more of a who knows. I think Bob wins. I'm similar to Joe, probably like more like 70-30 Bob. That's what I'm thinking. But I wouldn't be shocked if Devin won. We do have to see how Bob really does get affected by the bench rules. What did he do in his qualifier meet? He benched 227, so he benched 500. So that's still good with the new bench rules, but he probably is going to have to. If he just benches 227, I think this will be a very close meet. I think he's going to bench more, but like if it was only 227, then I think it would actually come down to legit a last pull, because at that meet he pulled 385 and he might have more than that, but like I don't think he's good for like 395. So I think if Bob like squats 350 plus, benches 230 plus, and whatever totals like 780, I mean 980, then he wins. And if he totals like 970, then it'll be a tight battle. So I'll go 70-30 Bob. And yeah, anyone else have any thoughts? Okay, so we can move on to the 120 pluses, which is again a weight class where they're just competing for a medal because Jesus has his world spot locked. But we still have some like interesting competitors here. It's interesting to I didn't even like look at I looked at the roster, but I hadn't even looked at like the specific weight classes. That's why I paused for a second at the 120s, because I'm like, wait, Tristan Azorod and Enrique Lugo. I'm like, wait, well, they're 120 plus. I guess they figured that based off their training, they weren't beating Bob and Devin. So if they weren't getting the world spot either way, then might as well compete for the national championship, which will be easier to get in the 120 plus than it is in the 120s, and you don't have to worry about cutting. So here we got Pablo Alvarez, Jesus' younger brother. We got Enrique Lugo. We got Tristan Azorod. We got Ray, who everyone's excited to see. And then we also have Jonathan Averill, who's also totaled 2K in the past. Yeah, so those are like I think I don't recognize most of these other names, so I'm assuming that I'm not missing anyone who's in the mix. But Adriana will let me know if I am missing someone.
No, you're good. I think you got everyone. I think Enrique Lugo and Tristan Nazelrod, that'll be a fun rematch between them. I believe they battled before in the 120s. So kind of a good match there to get presumably third place, maybe second if Pablo doesn't do as well. And then same with Jonathan Averill in there. And then we got this battle between likely just between the two of Ray Williams and Pablo Olivares. With Ray, we can talk about him first. He's, of course, the favorite to win he's not going to be near his best total, which is actually what he would need to hit to take that world team spot, because Jesus did do 11:52.5 last year at Sheffield, but this year at Sheffield he did 11:13, which is half a kilo, interestingly enough, over Ray Williams' best total. So I mean, we never know with Ray. We don't really see much of his training. He did squat 1K again in the gym. I don't remember how long ago it was, but
Did you see the video? Because I saw the thing he posted, and it was a long video, but there was no squat in it.
We're just talking the whole time. Yeah.
maybe that was
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
I swear it's so annoying. He doesn't trim his videos. His videos are forever. So I'm just sitting there waiting, and there's no squat.
I know.
I know. But yeah, so supposedly I don't see he would have a reason to lie. I don't know. But supposedly
No,
he
of course,
put up,
no. Of course, of course, I believe he squatted it. I want to see,
yeah,
like,
yeah. It was just like when you're trying to
was
look for
depth
the
good?
training.
Was it fast? I want to see, not just for a scouting standpoint. Just like I like
I
seeing
want to
Ray
see it as a
squat. Like,
fan.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's also like it doesn't have to be
So
a social
tilting.
media star, but it'll be
Oh
fun.
my
It would
God,
be
he's
fun to
so
see
bad
more of
at
his
social media.
training. Yeah, it'd be fun to see more of his training, especially if he's squatting near 1K again. So put that up in the gym, and we never know. He doesn't really post his training. It would be very surprising to see him near his best again. It would be a big upset for him to take the world spot over Jesus. So I don't think he's gonna do that. He's kind of been around that 1,000 kilo mark his past few meets. He competed at last year's nationals and actually won the title. So he's the reigning national champion since Jesus wasn't there, and he won with 1,000 kilos. And then he went on to the NAPF championships, also totaled around 1,000 kilos, 995. And yeah, so Jesus is probably the shoe-in to go back to Worlds, which is why he didn't sign up to compete again. But he's got his brother competing, and he actually coaches his brother too in Pablo Olivares. And his best total is 925 kilos. So it's a bit under Ray. And we kind of saw this at Sheffield, where they're hitting these massive numbers where if you mess up on a big jump, then you can fall very far behind, which is kind of what happened with Jesus. Like he was projecting a 1160 kilo total. He ended up 50 kilos under, just because with how things played out, how the deadlifts go with these super heavy weights. So it's not like they're nominated 0.5 kilos away from each other, but it could still be a fun battle to see, especially if Ray is not at his best and Pablo is at his best. He's progressing. He's pretty young, just aging out of the juniors. And he's got his brother behind him. He's got the genetics, obviously, and he's got his brother coaching him as well. So just looking at his training, which he posts more often than Ray does, of course, his best squat in a competition is 380 kilos, which he did about a year ago. So his last competition is about a year ago, which he's got a ton of time to progress. And he put up 385 in training, so 5 kilo over his competition best about 6 weeks ago. For his bench, his best is 215 kilos, and his bench has grown a lot. He benched 220 for a double, and it was pretty hard, but it looked like a clean double, kind of similar to Jesus. Maybe the pause was not as good, but I don't know. At least the first rep looked pretty speedy and clean for me. So I think he can at least do 220, if not 225, which would be 10 kilos over his best. And then for his deadlifts, it's kind of the same thing as Jesus, where his best in competition is 345, right? Or excuse me, it's actually 340. And he matched that in the gym just recently. He put up 340. And honestly, he's got the same kind of build as Jesus. They're literally brothers. His deadlift, sometimes it can be soft. Maybe there's a question on grip. Mostly the soft part, like soft knees or soft shoulders. So it'll just be interesting to see what kind of deadlift he can put up, especially with Ray's um best recent deadlifts. He has put up more before, but Ray's recent deadlifts have been kind of around the same mark, like 320 to 340. So Ray is clearly the favorite, just with the totals that he has put up with the trends. That's what we look at. We look at the trends, but Pablo is in there and could possibly pull off the upset if Ray doesn't execute, if Pablo does. And it'll just be fun to see a legend in the game and Ray, and then also Pablo, who could be the future, could be battling against Jesus one day. And it's kind of a preview for that.
Okay. Joe, you got anything to add?
Not much. Ray's the heavy favorite, obviously. Even on Pablo's best day, let's say he goes like he matches the squat or surpasses it 385, benches 225, and pulls like 345, matching that gym pull he just did. That's already 955. And I don't see Ray going under 1,000 unless he just goes 1 for 3 on squats or something. But yeah, Ray's the heavy favorite, even though he's not at his top end potential or strength like he once was. I don't see him losing at all. And I think the only person on the planet that can actually challenge Jesus would be, I think his name Frank Allen, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Frank. Yeah, he's a beast. And I know he's on the other side of the hill in terms of age. So I don't see him catching Jesus at all. That's not what I'm saying. But if there were to be any sort of rivalry or anyone that just potentially catch Jesus on a super bad day, it would be him. Sadly, he's not in the competition because I'd like to see him versus Ray. That would be a good comp, and I think Frank would beat him. But yeah, he's not. So
By
I
the way,
have to.
I wanted to. You said the other side of age. He is not young, but I'm saying he's making. I mean, he totaled 1,070 at his last comp, which was up 30 from his comp before that, and 40 from his. He's still like, he's not young, but he's making like young man like gains. So he is, yeah, he's definitely the person who is closest. And the one other person I would say is like the obvious one is just Tamor, like the Georgian Junior, just because what he's doing at such a young age, like he's still way, like 100 plus kilos behind, but like
Yeah.
he's making progress. Like it happens to be, it's not like you put like a crazy amount. Like you would guess like from a junior 120 plus, like maybe they could put like a lot on from comp to comp, but like he's not like done so much more. Like he's only like put on 16 kilos over the last like year, which is not nothing, but like it's not like, but his training's looking good. So like I do think he's gonna like push past 1,050 soon, and then like at least be in range to maybe like break into 1,100 over the next few years. But yeah,
He is competing at Euros just this week,
yeah,
I think. So we'll see what he
yeah.
puts up there.
Okay, JJ, you have anything to add?
No, not really. But I will say my picks, which are Ray to win, then Pablo, and then probably Lugo for third.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't have much to add on this class. I'm watching it only for one reason, and that's just because I want to see Ray squat 1,000 in comp. Like each time he competes might be the last time we ever get to see 1,000 pound squat from Ray. And that's one thing that like I'm disappointed. I've never gotten to see Ray squat 1,000 in person. So it's kind of disappointing, but that I'm not there this time. But yeah, that's all I'm watching. I want to see him do it. His bench actually surprisingly, he benched more last meet than he's done in like his last like 6 meets. So maybe like things are going, and also like he's had time off. Maybe like things are going well. Like he's not come close to Jesus, but like it would be nice if he like has like a rebound meet and like squats the 1K again, benches around maybe a little bit more than what he did last meet, and like pulls like what he did like at national, like what he tried at nationals last year. That would get him close to 1,050. So that would be nice. But that's it. So I Ray winning, Pablo second, and then like there'll be a bunch of people in the low 900s. But yeah, so unless anyone has anything to add, I think we could end it here. That was a pretty short one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sped by it quick. Don't worry,
Yeah.
we'll split it in two. It's fine.
Okay, Vaughn. Thank you guys for coming on, and thank you everyone who's going to be listening to this. If you actually make it to this point, send me a message because I appreciate anybody that lasts to this point. But Yeah, so this was our preview for PA Nationals, which is coming up in a couple of days, and more so the cashing a ticket to World. So, and we'll be back for more coming soon. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you guys for coming on.
Of course. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.